can turn their food into 24-karat gold. There is a helmet on Mars that belongs from the time of the Mahabharata. Autopsies in the time of ancient India were kept by leaving bodies in water for 3 days. And of course, today, the best one of them all, airplanes existed at the time of the Vedic era, which were designed by Maharishis about 7,000 years ago. And they flew from one planet to the other and carried weapons on them. Now, all of these statements would sound perhaps more acceptable if there was a collection or a convention of Maharishis and Vedic yogis. But what on earth were they doing at the most prestigious science convention in the country, the Indian Congress of Science, which is being held in Mumbai? It's a 5-day event, and as the second day draws to a close, one wonders whether it's going to make any headlines for science, or is this Indian Science Congress, the 102nd edition, going to only be remembered for its overtones of mythology? That's what we look at on agenda today. And joining us on the show today, we've got with us Dr. Abrol, who is an associate professor from People Science Network. We've also got with us Mr. Anuj Sinha, who is an engineer and a chairman of Network of Indian Science Communicator Organization. And we're also joined from Mumbai by Dr. Ashwin Sawant, who was one of the people who spoke at the convention. Dr. Sawant, if I could just start with you first. There are a whole bunch of students over here from the background, many of them from the background of the science, and they all want to know, the claim that you made about plastic surgery that was invented 3,500 years ago in India. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that and where you've actually come up with that from.
First of all, I'm thankful to you that you are giving me this opportunity and you are providing me this platform. See, whatever method is mentioned of human dissection in Sushruta Samhita, it is clear cut, it's a proper scientific method. Now that Sushruta Samhita, which was created approximately during 1500 BC, if that method is completely explaining how to select the dead body, what should be the criteria of selection of the dead body, it should be preserved in the water, it should be kept in a calmly flowing river, it should be held in a cage, and after 3 to 7 days you should remove it, after 3 days you should remove it and start rubbing the skin with a soft brush and remove it, skin layer by layer and start examining external and internal parts. So this is a method of human body dissection which seems to be absolutely scientific. I don't know how you call it mythological. What is so mythological in this? This is absolutely a scientific dissection method which was done first time in this world.
All right, I'm going to let Dr. Abrol take that on. Right, Dr. Sawant, just give me a minute. I'm going to let Dr. Abrol respond to that.
I think if there is a claim that this is scientific and it is 1500 BC and it comes from the kind of texts which are being mentioned, then the dates have to be verified to begin with. And as far as I know, that the ideas of medical knowledge in preliminary form were there even before, but most of the knowledge, that is Charak Samhita or Sushruta Samhita, all this Sahitya, all these texts were created in 100 to 300 AD, and they are not that old. So I think it is mythology precisely because without doing work on it, when this, apart from the fact that whether the veracity of it, whether it could be done or not, it should have been tested again, because what science depends on is that retesting, re-experimenting and judging for oneself whether the idea that is being claimed is correct or not. It cannot be on the basis of the fact that somebody read it in the text and then you claim that it is scientific. In order to claim scientificity, you've got to test it and experiment, and I wish Ashwini had done that particular exercise, then we could have believed him far more.
Far more. And Dr. Sawant, I'm going to come back to you in just a bit on that, but I want to pick up Mr. Sinha on one of the claims today at the Indian Science Congress, which has actually just become the headline across the country. So many people are asking, how did Mr. Bodas actually get up and talk about planes that were invented 7,000 years ago by a Maharishi that flew from one planet to the other? It had, pilots had to have a special diet of cow or sheep milk. They had to dress in these magical suits which were made of vegetation found underwater. Is it wrong for many Indians to ask that sounds a bit like science fiction rather than science?
There is a lot of problem with this because I do wish Captain Bodas will be able to answer these things as to where does he derive all this information from. And he is a trained pilot who's been running a training school for pilots. The Congress has given him a platform and he's made statements there. I think there is a lot of space for plurality of opinion. That is okay. But then it should be considered only as an opinion and not as a hard evidence. When we talk of a research paper, which is what the Congress should be encouraging, the Indian Science Congress, such talks should remain only as talks and not as research papers. They can't be part of the proceedings of a research congress, which is the tradition of the Indian Science Congress of the past 101 years. So this symposium where there is a popular talk or a talk when Captain Bodas shares his opinion is perfectly all right, only as an opinion. The word Viman itself is subject to so many interpretations over times. Viman has also been reported as a building or as a process of moving, not necessarily as an aircraft. So interpretations have changed, meanings have changed. I'm not an expert in ancient Sanskrit or what was happening, what is the text that Captain Bodas has referred to. But to my mind, definitely engineering as it has evolved today and what we see as heavier than aircraft moving around is something which is modern and not which could have happened earlier. We did not have the science of being able to move heavier than air objects.
All right,
I just want to add here.
Sure.
See, I think the claim that was made with regard to aeroplanes also was dated back to 7,000 years ago or 9,000 years ago. As far as I am aware of, the history that I have learned and which is well-researched history, that human civilization can at the most be traced to going back to 4,000 years or 4,500 years or maximum. So see, there is an attempt actually to present something as science or as actually existing, and that it is very ancient altogether, etc. Is mythology for the reason because there is no evidence in the research history. There is no historical veracity for this particular date. There is no empirical evidence. The research which has been done. Archaeology is a well-developed science which has been used to actually work out the dates and so on, etc. Mohenjo-daro, for example, which is known for town planning and so on, etc. And drainage systems, etc. is also 3,500, 4,000 years old at the most.
Dr. Sawant, you want to respond to that? There are opinions coming now from both these eminent panelists that these could at best be opinions.
Regarding the civilization
talking about
of
a Vedic
Mohenjo-daro,
text 7,000 years ago, it didn't.
I would like to tell here that
and did civilization actually even exist at that time? History certainly doesn't support that claim.
See, scientists themselves, anthropologists themselves are claiming that civilization of Mohenjo-daro or Harappa could be existing from 6,000 to 15,000 BC. A person of computer science should not comment on that. Person on computer science should not comment of surgery. Plastic surgery, what Sushruta was doing, was seen practically by some British surgeons in 16th, 17th century. And the text which is written, or the reference which you have, that Sushruta was written in 2nd century, that was the second stage of the creation of the Sushruta Samhita. Sushruta Samhita was actually created.
Right, Dr. Sawant, I want to get one of the students from a science school to actually ask a question.
So it's like all the historical evidences have been based on this text called Viman Shastra, which was written in 1914 to 1918, something of that sort, and that was from some guy named Shastri, and that was based on some psychedelic recitation of this was Bhardwaj, Saint Bhardwaj. That guy came in his dreams, and that was psychedelic experiences, and he noted down. And to mind you of the facts that Wright brothers invented the aeroplanes in 1904. So basically this text was itself written historically in 1915. So maybe this is just a figment of ideas because... Yeah.
Captain Bodas would need to answer that question.
I actually have two questions for Dr. Ashwin. The first one, with my very limited medical knowledge, I would like to know if autopsies can be performed on a dead body that has been left in
In
bacteria-infested
water
water for, we can safely assume that it has been bacteria-infested for 3 days, because as we know, in morgues the temperature is kept very low so that the body does not rot.
Then also rigor sets in.
Yeah, rigor mortis
Rigor
sets
mortis
in. Yeah,
sets in. Right.
necrosis sets in. So could you explain
Dr.
how that
Sawant,
works?
you want to very quickly respond to his question. He's basically asking that if a body has been left in water for 3 days, as you're claiming, can an autopsy be done given that it's bacteria-infested water? And even in morgues, the temperature is controlled, and even then, rigor mortis sets in.
See, we are not talking here about infection. We are talking here about the human body dissection. This was the method which they were following, and we can consider if that period was too old for those days, that method was advanced. I don't say for these days it could not be a right way. But what we are trying to say is these are the methods which were developed by our ancestors, and this is a platform which was provided to us by a Sanskrit department. And this is a beginning. I don't say that we may not be absolutely correct, but this is a beginning, and we should start digging, we should start opening our ancient text and see what we can find which can be useful to us even in 21st century.
All right, but I think, Dr. Sawant, many people are saying that, to bring out opinions and to bring out hypothetical and potentially mythological claims at a very prestigious science conference which has Nobel laureates from across the world is perhaps a little bit problematic.
Again, see,
but I just want to
in
steer
my
the discussion
subject-
away
in my
and look
subject
at,
there was
go
nothing called
beyond the Science
mythological.
Congress and also look at the fact that, just a few months ago, we saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the inauguration of a hospital in Mumbai, ironically enough, talking about the fact that Ganesha was a figment also of plastic surgeons at the time, and not just that, but also talking about the possible, existence of genetic science which allowed the Kauravas to take birth during the times of the Mahabharata. So would you like to say something on that?
See, again, I think
It's not just, it's,
see, if it was the case that all this advanced knowledge existed, then one has to also ask a question: how it got eliminated or eroded? Who was responsible for this erosion? In fact, one is not saying that in India as if there was no discovery done. And in fact, a number of important discoveries to which we can actually claim that they were developed here as far as it's concerned.
Yeah.
And in fact, many of these particular discoveries, which include number system, for example, even the use of zero and so on, etc. Many of these we can actually claim, but many of them also developed in actually in exchange that was going on with Mesopotamia, with Egypt, with Greek, with Arabia, and so on, etc. So there are multicultural regions. One can get into the details of how this particular knowledge, in fact, was transformed. So then the question which I started with, saying that why it got eliminated? Why is that Aryabhatiya actually was not remembered till very, very recently as far as is concerned? It was because of is it the caste system? Is it that this particular knowledge was not considered to be important?
Right.
These uncomfortable questions will have to be asked precisely by those people. One second. Just
really quickly, we have to flip into
those people who are actually trying to construct the superiority of the early Vedic period and that particular because this is all actually, I'm telling you, attempt actually to create a false pride when you are actually dependent and you are not doing good science.
And that could be one of the reasons why we saw Dr. Harshvardhan saying we generously and magnanimously gave away our algebra and Pythagoras theorem to the Greeks and Arabs respectively. But so I'm going to let you come back on just a bit. We'll have to slip into a very, very short break. But after the break, we look at one of the key questions that's coming up over and over. Is this the government's attempt to bring Hindutva agenda into the field of something as rational, as logical as science? We'll look at that question in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away.